Exactly. Yeah, but thank you. Yes, thank you to everybody for being here. And we'll be beginning in just a minute, less than a minute. Okay, so it is 5:40. Welcome to the Language of Hip Hop, an artist talk between Dylan and Adrian, presented to you by the Hart House Student Literary and Library Committee in support of the Hip Hop Education Program. At this point, I would like to invite all the participants to unmute themselves and say hello to their fellow audience members and the speakers. You guys can do that right now if you'd like.
Unmute.
Hello.
Hello. It's so much better to hear you guys. I love it.
Yeah, it's a full house.
Hello.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Okay, so as an event for the community, in the community, we really value audience participation, although this is virtual. So we would like, before the event starts, if you, the audience members, could introduce yourselves in the chat. So if you'd like, you can put your name, your pronouns, if you feel comfortable, and you can describe your day in color. Matthew will put that in the chat at this moment, but we would love if you guys could introduce yourselves over the chat.
Hell yeah.
And I'll give a moment to do so. Okay. So these instructions are in the chat, but I will keep moving on. By way of some event instructions, this event will be recorded. So in remaining and participating in this event, you're consenting for your audio and your video to be recorded. There will be time to pose questions to both Adrian and Dylan at the end of the event. To do so, please use the chat function available on the Zoom toolbar, and I'll communicate your question to Adrian and Dylan on your behalf. And the use of the video function is available for your use at your own discretion. And we believe it's important to maintain the integrity and intent of this space by ensuring that all discussion is respectful. We take the safety and security of all people on this call very seriously and will act, if necessary, to maintain it. So before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the sacred land on which we gather and which the University of Toronto and Hart House operates is part of Treaty 13 and William Treaty's land and is territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit River. For at least 15,000 years, this place that many of us call Toronto has been a site of human activity, care, and custodianship. It is the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe-Chippewa, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, this meeting place is still home to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to live and make art on this land.
Oh yeah.
Yes. This event is taking place about 1 week after the first National Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th. And so it seems fitting to echo the 84th call to action by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, which asks that the Canada Council for the Arts to establish as a funding priority a strategy for Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists to undertake collaborative projects and produce works that contribute to the reconciliation process. And thus we ask everyone here to think about how art will contribute to the process of reconciliation. We would be remiss if we ignored how Indigenous artists have contributed richly and creatively to the genre of hip hop through their own unique experiences and art practices. And we encourage all participants to explore Indigenous hip hop artists if you haven't done so already. So we're really grateful to be joined today by Dylan King, known professionally as DillanPonders and Adrian Hales. The Hart House Student Literary and Library Committee began supporting the hip hop education program last year through the lens of literature, writing, and storytelling. But we came to understand over the course of the year that the subversive and yet incredibly expressive element to hip hop was that writing is found in every prong or medium that hip hop inhabited. And we were struck by the presence of words in graffiti and the poetry in rap, for example. So we became interested in exploring what would happen if we put artists working in seemingly distinct disciplines in conversation about hip hop, whether we would be able to think about a more complex notion of literature or even to decentralize the notion of literature. So that is how this event came to be. I'm gonna let both Dylan and Adrian talk more about their work and themselves soon. That's who you guys came here to see. But I did want to start by introducing them to you guys. Okay. At the tender age of 9, Toronto-based illustrator Adrian Hales discovered the expressive nature of the visual arts. With his continued artistic development, illustration became his deepest passion and talent. His desire to learn and absorb from his surroundings led him on a personal creative journey. His style is provocative and inspiring and defies categorization. Blurring the lines between graffiti and ultra-realism, Adrian's voice and vision is instantly identifiable. In the past, Adrian has painted complete buildings and city blocks, designed award-winning video games, and animated television shows, amongst so much more. And we're very grateful to have him here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Mm-hmm.
Named one of XXL's 10 Canadians to know, DillanPonders is carving a unique lane in hip hop with his distorted and hazy, yet cutting and perceptive sound and larger than life persona. A trapped out poet with a powerful delivery, Ponders' music is versatile with songs perfect for a party or somber solo listening. Just a few years ago, Dylan was homeless, sleeping in a bus, shelters, and bank lobbies, not knowing where his next meal was going to come from. And he built himself from nothing, finding a part-time job, saving up to build a small home studio and releasing music online. He's been on an exponential rise ever since, and we're also very, very grateful to have him here. If you'd like to say hi, Dylan.
Hi, thank you for having me here. Sorry, we're just dealing with some business simultaneously as you were giving me that beautiful introduction. But thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you all, and specifically you, Mr. Adrian Hales.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And so I'm not going to stop this conversation anymore. I'm going to stop sharing and pass the mic on to Dylan and Adrian for their conversation.
Adrian,
Awesome.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm very well. I'm blessed. It's a good day. The sun is shining, you know. So we have so much to be thankful for. So, you know, yeah.
Gratitude is definitely something I like to put at the top of my emotions and at the top of my intentions. Just being grateful. I'm truly, honestly grateful. Just as we were saying before, I'm sure no one in the chat knows this, but you're good friends with my dad. And I'm grateful to be able to actually talk to you because I know about you, but I've never actually had a chance to have a dialogue with you. So I think this will be honestly fruitful for me personally, as well as whoever's partaking in this little journey we're about to go on.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, I know we got asked to ask each other questions, but before we get into that, my first question, oh, that's hilarious. But I guess my first thing I want to say to you is that your work is very incredible. It truly is. And I guess honestly, I have to ask you this question. I have to. I want to know now. I put it in my notes so I wouldn't mess up the question at all. So, as an artist and as a creator and as a human being, was there a specific moment in your life when you decided you wanted to get off the so-called hamster wheel and focus all your energy into creating? Or is it something you've always wanted to do and knew that you were going to do?
Yeah, well, I've always known that since I came back to Canada at the age of 9, much like my bio states, I was really focused on being a visual artist. I really loved the visual realm. I loved drawing specifically. I'm very imaginative, so it was always something I was gonna do in some capacity throughout my life. I knew that. But there's so many different facets that you can go into as an artist. And so after graduating from Humber College with graphic design under my belt, graphic design, I needed to figure out a means of getting money or, doing the basic stuff that adults do to survive. So I spent many years, right? You know what I'm talking about. So, I after graduating, I went and I was working for a couple of companies doing like video game design and all that. But it's very truncating, whereas you can't really express yourself and do a variety of things. It's really kind of industrious in its way to doing it. You're kind of like on a hamster wheel.
Little linear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't really, you're within a box, you're designing within guides, and you can only do so much. So after, doing that for like 8-9 years, I just got frustrated and wanted to do my own thing. And that's when I, ventured off to wanted to spray paint and do massive murals and have an impact in my community. And that was the epicenter of my creative development. I was like, kind of broke the shackles and said, forget it, I'm going to do what I want to do. And whatever comes of it, comes of it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful that leap of faith. Perspective, because not a lot of people understand how much courage it takes to take that leap of faith, but that courage isn't misplaced. That courage comes from a deep knowing that this is what I want to do while I'm alive. So I'm gonna do it, and hopefully it works out. Yeah, but if it doesn't, at bare minimum, at least I go to bed being proud of what I did that day, type of things.
100%. Yeah. And I am thankful for the entire journey, the struggles and all that, the times where I was really frustrated, because once you get out and you're on, if I was just given everything I have now without going through that, then I wouldn't appreciate it now. And the things I learned along that journey wouldn't have helped me benefit to becoming what I am now. So it was all necessary.
They wouldn't have resonated the same. I have a line in a record I'm working on called "I Grew Up Before I Blew Up," because if I was allotted all the opportunities and the position that I was in like 10 years ago, even maybe 6 years ago, not only would I have potentially fumbled the opportunities, but I didn't have the perspective to maximize those opportunities in the way that I could. And that perspective only came through experiences, whether bad, traumatizing, or incredible. All of them helped me be able to appreciate this place that I'm currently in and that you're currently in. So it's nice to know that you share that perspective, because I have a very innate feeling that everything that gets put in front of me by Mother Universe gets put in front of me when I'm ready for it. Like it's here now because I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Even if I feel scared, I mean, if I'm not a little bit nervous before I do something, something's wrong. Like you kind of gotta have some nerves before going into something. So I really do appreciate that answer and that perspective. I've admired your work from a distance from time.
Yeah, there's no coincidences in life.
No.
People that you meet and the things and opportunities that come to you, there's no coincidences. It's meant to be. And I like that we're constantly tapping into the idea of appreciation, because that is definitely the cornerstone of living a happy life.
Yes.
If you cannot appreciate, you will never, ever be happy. Never be content and satisfied. You will always be living in how do I say it? You're not forward thinking, right? So you're kind of
exactly. I mean, like, gratitude is a real thing. And back when I was homeless for a couple of years, I had a bit of a defeatist perspective. I was like, I didn't ask to get put on this planet. Why am I here? I'm mad, you know, and that energy created a gravitational pull that brought in more negativity. It just kept bringing in
Totally more negative.
You are what, like, everything that you are is going to come close to you. So I had to intentionally start shifting my perspective and living with intention, you know, like today I intend to get out of bed and write a song. And then that turns into today I intend to record this song. And what I intend to do with this song is make myself feel a little better and maybe make someone feel better at the same time. And that intention slowly turns into gratitude. Like, it's like, I intend to do all these things. And now I'm grateful to be in this position because these things are getting done, whether or not projects get completed or whether or not an idea gets spewed. I feel like living with intention is a very nice path to living with gratitude. And I feel like a life without gratitude and appreciation, it's not a full one. I agree with, no, I'm agreeing with you.
Thank you.
Wholeheartedly.
So I'm going to pose my first question, if I may.
I would love to hear it.
All right. If you didn't become a musician, what would you be doing right now? If not for music.
If I wasn't a musician, I would probably be a sound guy, an engineer, stage designer, anything in the realm of artistic expression. I would have had directly inserted myself into that. Now, that question is a good question because I do believe that I was put on this planet to express myself in a certain way, whether before I even knew it was recording, whether through athletics, whether through visual arts. I feel like I was always meant to express myself, but I innately feel almost in like a destiny sense that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So a question like that is difficult, but I do know that I would be doing something revolving around artistic expression, specifically within the realm of music.
Got it. That's a fair answer. Absolutely.
1000%. I want to riff with you for a minute because
all right.
You have, as an artist, I like to have this conversation with people that I revere and that I respect. So being that artistic expression is entirely subjective in nature, comes from you more or less, and that all exterior opinions stem from a subjective place. Do you believe there is a such thing as objectivity when it comes to art?
So in other words, it's like buying something based on its functionality or buying some, because wow, that's a tough question.
I ask myself it every day. So I had to ask someone else so that I could bear the weight of this question.
So you're basically asking me, you believe that people will buy something for objective purposes as opposed to subjective purposes, meaning how they feel about it as opposed to it having a function, any kind of specific function.
Yeah, you know, let me try and broaden the scale of the question because it's not necessarily revolving around the sense of purchase or buying, but interpretation is everything, how we all feel about things. But a lot of artists I hear say, objectively, I think this will resonate. And when I hear sentences like that, I just wonder because everybody appreciating or absorbing art, whether it be music, a painting, a mural, or graffiti or anything, they're consuming it, which makes it subjective. So do you believe that there is like an objective, this is good, or an objective, this is bad? Or is it really just however someone feels about it?
Well, okay, so art is needs to be broken up in two parts.
I would like
to. There's design. Design is completely objective.
Okay.
For instance, when you go to a washroom, you see a man, you see a woman, just for me painting with a big brush, just because it's a means of communication.
Yes, and immediately that is
communicating, right? And that serves a purpose. I mean, it's a big part, you know, stop signs, for instance, the classic one, it's across the board. And there's an artistic, somebody designed that for a purpose. So right? Whereas opposed to if you're this, and I go around the scene and I see all kinds of paintings, and I question how I feel about it personally. But if you look at stuff as across the board as how it affects the visual sweep, and I'm talking mainly about murals, because it is in the public realm and it's for public consumption. That means that everybody has an opinion on it, and it's there regardless to what people think about it as independent individuals, if you know what I'm saying, right? We do a lot of consultations when it comes to doing mural projects, just so we can get the community's opinion of what's going to go in there, because we realize that it's going to impact them.
Mm.
Right, but there's artists like me. I love being in that space where I can do whatever I want to.
Yep.
But also, I love to get feedback from people this way that what I'm creating really resonates with them, because they've got to live with it. I kind of get parachuted into a community. I do a mural. I'm out of there, right? They have to do it.
But that mural is there, and it's going to affect them every single day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think a lot about it. But then, my style is very broad, and I love the challenge of coming up with something that I would not otherwise have came up with without somebody's opinion being brought to the forefront.
Okay.
Right. So in that sense, I mean, it kind of goes both ways. But yeah, there's definitely an objectivity about it where it's got to serve a purpose. And if anything, just to beautify the visual sweep of our city. As opposed to having a gray wall, now it's a blue wall, a red, you know what I mean? Something that's
now it's vibrant. Now it invokes emotion. Now it's being interpreted. Now it's impacting people. Yeah.
Exactly. Even if people don't like something, at least they're getting an emotional response out of it.
That's one of my favorite things about artistic expression. It's conjured feelings or experiences into some form that makes people feel something. It's one of the most beautiful things I think about art, is that you're making people feel,
exactly.
whether it's pissed, whether it's appreciative, whether it's confused, you're offering something. Yeah, exactly. So
give me 1 second. I gotta plug in my power here. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, go for it. You're gonna need that, because we're gonna need to have this conversation. Yeah, that question for me is one that I definitely wanted to ask you, and I'm happy you gave me such a beautiful answer.
Good. I'm glad it's hit boom. All right, we're powered up.
Boom.
Yep.
Boom. 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 Boom.
Right, business. All right, so should I ask the next now? Are we good on that?
Let's just keep it rolling. Yeah, man.
Right. What is the weirdest and funniest questions you've ever been asked in an interview? This is a bit more broader, funner,
Well,
I'll give you a minute. Go ahead.
One of the weirdest questions I was ever asked in an interview okay, so one of the most annoying questions that I was asked in an interview is like, what is it? I'm trying to synthesize, because realistically, at this point in my career and my trajectory, I haven't had a ginormous amount of interviews.
Yeah.
I have had enough. But I mean, I have had a weird interview when I performed in Kingston. Someone asked me if being an artist I'm just being an artist just to be able to sleep with several people, which I felt to be a pretty surface level, small-minded question. But it made me extremely uncomfortable. It's like, no, you're obviously just projecting your intentions as a human being onto me with that question, and that made me a bit uncomfortable. And one of the most annoying questions is what I think I'm going to make this a little more broad, because we're talking about the discussion of hip hop and what hip hop is, which is the dopest and purest form of expression, in my opinion. And one of them, artistic expression in the world. But I often, as an artist, get put in the category as a rapper, because I do rap. And if I do say so myself, I think I do it pretty well.
You do?
And I feel like that perspective puts me in a box forever. It's like the DillanPonders the rapper, not DillanPonders the artist. or the expressionist.
Sure.
So a lot of questions that I get asked are just like, what made you want to rap? And I'm like, well, I've always been a poet. I've been writing poetry since I was young. It was only when I took up to the microphone I realized they were the same thing. I feel like, to circle back to your question, I haven't necessarily received any bad questions. I do think a lot of narratives and interviews revolve around me being a rapper as opposed to me being an artist. And I know I rap well. I love it. I study the game. I practice my craft every day. I love doing this. But when I when I grab like this beautiful microphone right here, I'm not like, what am I gonna rap about today? It's, what do I have to say? And then when I figure out what I feel like saying, I may be singing it, I may be humming it, I might make a dub reggae track, I might make a dancehall thing, I might go and make a pop record. Like, I think one of the most annoying things in general in interviews is that I get treated as a rapper as opposed to an artist. And I don't mind that, because it goes to show that my craft is substantial enough that I get categorized as a rapper. But I know that I am expansive enough as a person and as a creator that I think I should probably be dubbed an artist as opposed to a rapper. So that's kind of my roundabout way of answering that question.
That's good. That's a solid answer. I like that. It's important to know who you are. It's super important to know who you are, especially when you get to a certain level where people are approaching you and having, as you said, kind of imposing their opinions of what they think you are. You'll get a lot of that. It's one of my favorite quotes is, on the path of greatness, you're going to be hated, mocked, and misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? On the path of greatness. So and that's where you have the gauntlet you have to go through. Once you're able to go through that, then you're able to, receive the blessings that come from all that.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, knowing who I am is equally as important as knowing who I'm not. And one thing that Dr. Seuss told me is, today you're truer than true, and there's no one alive more youer than you. And like, that's facts. So I wake up every day with that notion, and I move and I guide myself kind of from that focal point.
Brilliant. I dig it.
Yeah, man. So do you mind if I go next?
Yeah, you're next.
I'll save this one for the end.
Okay, sure.
Long one. I'll ask you this. It may seem surface level, but I feel like you'll feel it. What is your favorite part about being an artist?
My independence.
If you can narrow it down.
In a word, it's simply independence. I love my independence. Being able to do what I want, kind of when I want to do it, is great. I don't think that's limited to being an artist, but that for me is really, I get inspired by so many things that I see, and things around me, and being able to grow and develop creatively on my own terms. There's nothing greater than that. You know what I mean? And like, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like you said, you wake up and you want to do A, B, C, you ever write something down, you can deliver it in whatever format, whatever cadence you feel fit, without having somebody telling you what to. That's what I refer to as independence. It's being you and being able to do what you feel works for you. So. Exactly.
And the rift with that too, because for me, independence is like the coolest feeling in the world. Like
nothing like it.
It's liberating, it's empowering, and it's so liberating and empowering that it oozes into other people through your creations. It's beautiful. One of my favorite parts about being an artist is not knowing what I'm going to do next, but knowing it's going to come from a genuine place. Like I never really know what's going to happen next, or like what my next creation will be, but I know that I'm constantly inspired. I mean, from this dialogue, I'm going to be in the studio for the rest of the night after this. I'll probably be inspired by segments of this dialogue. I think it's almost that real feeling of independence, and being an independent artist, actually, like unsigned, not signed to a label. And you already know, as an independent entity, how that, obviously not in the musician sphere, but as an independent artist, maneuvering through this sphere can have its challenges, because freedom of expression was not necessarily something that my teachers or my superiors, quote unquote, told me was something I could monetize. Like no one's, it was almost like, you want to be an artist, good luck.
Yeah. Oh,
It was always a road less traveled. And
sure. Yeah.
What I think you do naturally, and what I think I would like to do before my time is up on this earth, is give people, quote unquote, permission and make people feel like, yeah, this is a path. Why are people telling me I can't do something?
100%.
I can do this. I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I think that's one of my favorite parts too. Yeah.
The greatest human act is to inspire, you know what I mean? And we as artists, we're inspired by other artists. I'm inspired by your conversation and learning and music.
Inspired by you too, my friend.
Yeah. It's very reciprocated. So this is the human experience on a next level.
Yeah, and almost on a never ending loop. And I love it.
Amazing. All right, so I'll shoot next.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh God.
No, it's nothing major. I'm sure you'll be able to pop it off really quick. But what do you feel is the best song you've ever released, and why?
I'll answer that immediately.
See, I know you had it.
Yeah, there's not one. No.
There's not one? You don't have a favorite song that come out same way?
No. Because see, what I've learned, I have now been I've now been recording music on my own accord for about 13 years, but I've been doing it professionally now for about 8 or 9. And everything's seasonal for me. So for example, Jungle, when I released Because We're Alive, for me, song length, bars, hook, the actual instrumentation of the beat, for me, it was flawless. Like trying to come from an objective standpoint when releasing the record, right? And that for me is one of my favorite records for that reason. But I'll go back to The Boy Who Died, which is one album I dropped about 4 years ago, and I'll play a song like 3 a.m. with Misha Brigger-Gossman, who is an incredible opera singer from Canada. That's one of my favorite songs I have ever created, because of the emotional vulnerability, the fact that I have like one of the best opera singers in the world on it as like an independent, unsigned artist, and how impactful it is. But today I woke up, and today my favorite song is Planet Ponders. That's just today. I love how hard hitting the beat is, how clean cut the bars are. But I say all that to say this, like, I can never tell you my favorite one, because I truly, every song that I make, you can ask my best friend Khalik, Terrell, Rashid, or Rek, or my girl Ali. Every song I'm about to release is my favorite one. Yeah. Like the one that I'm putting all of my energy into at that moment in time is my favorite song in the world. And when it comes out and it belongs to the world and it grows roots and it becomes like, involved in everyone else's lives, now it's doing its thing over there, and it's still a favorite, but and then there's a new one.
Yeah, you gotta detach and move on.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't want to sound like that guy, but they're all my favorite, man. Like I'm coming from an honest place with that.
I appreciate that
answer, and they're all my favorite songs.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you should hate your song, but I like the way you wrapped it up. That the whatever you're working on, I feel the same way when I'm creating as well. Whatever I'm currently working on is my most prized
magnum opus.
Exactly. You have to have that mentality, because you got to put your all into whatever you're doing at that time, being in the moments, or else you're going to be living in the past, right? Like, oh, I did that piece and I'm never going to top it. But right?
That's a good point, man. I was in the studio with a friend of mine recently, and he was saying, I don't know what to make right now. Oh, my last couple of records, like, they're charting. I don't know how to top that. And I'm like, you don't have to. You did that.
Yeah, move.
That happened. Cool. What? Make something else. Don't, like, is this as hard hitting? Like, dude, you did that. Go here. Like, and he did those records without comparing himself to those records. So follow that formula, just keep it flowing. But I'm always excited as fuck about everything I'm working on. It's always my favorite, always.
I'm gonna get greedy, and I know that I have maybe like 2 more questions than you do, so I'm gonna ask you. Since we're on this path, which musician would you like to collaborate with next? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Kid Cudi.
Oh, there you go. Good. I love Kid Cudi.
There's three.
Mhm.
Kid Cudi, because from an artistic standpoint, I've always admired his work,
Sure.
but he's always been one of my favorite artists, and I feel like I've recently phoenixed into an entity that could really work with him, and we could make something special. Second artist I would want to work with is, man, there's a lot. I want to work with Coffee.
Oh, Coffee. Yeah, yeah. I think
I
that'd be dope. That's it. Yeah. That's dope.
I'm putting that on the universe. I want that. I'd like to work with Wiz Khalifa. See, for me and him, it's an entity thing. I feel like we'd have fun, and I'm sure you can understand why we would get along. And my last artist that I am going to work with before I'm in the ground, hopefully no time soon, is Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne for me has always been just someone who I admired artistically, the way that he can rapid fire his lines, his work ethic, his punchlines, his hilarity. He's an artist I've always looked up to in a sense. So he's someone I would genuinely like to work with on some OG shit.
Oh yeah, he's incredible. I mean, the whole Cash Money clique, I was just listening to a podcast talking about how, man, their distribution deal was ridiculous.
It's unheard of.
They are the richest. They have the game on lock.
I know.
And his catalog, just Lil Wayne's catalog.
You know, his Lil Wayne's catalog, and then he branches out, and then there's Drake and Nicki Minaj. I mean, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's good company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Good for you. Well, go ahead.
Is it I know we're on the clock, so I have a question for you, but I feel like this is a biggie. So do you want to hit me with another one first? If you don't, I'm ready.
It's kind of, sure, it's a superfluous one. Describe your favorites and least favorites part of being a musician. What do you like the most? What do you like the least?
My favorite part about being a musician kind of is latched onto your answer about your favorite part about being an artist is independence.
Sure.
The freedom to create. My least favorite part is how underfunded and undersupported this path is. I'm in a position now where I'm slowly coming into a place where I can actually pay rent and eat off of releasing my art, which took me about a decade. I would genuinely love for artists to have a bit more resources, to have a bit more. So my least favorite part about being a musician is nothing. I fucking love being a musician, but I guess one of the most annoying parts is that being a musician, it's this road less traveled for several reasons. It's one of the most monetizable things on the planet, yet it's almost the most underfunded things when it comes to the Canadian sphere, which for me just doesn't make any sense. And when it comes to the culture that we represent and come from, I just feel like there should be a lot more opportunities. So when I say opportunities, I mean like, if you want to be a lawyer, you can go to 87,000 schools for it. There are resources. You can do it. If you want to say, I just want to play guitar, you better know a friend who plays guitar and he's in a band, and you got to know someone. There's not like an actual set platform out here to help musicians win and eat off of a talent that the world craves. So my least favorite part about being a musician is just how underfunded and I don't want to say underappreciated from a fan standpoint, but underappreciated from like a capitalist standpoint.
Right.
That would probably be.
You're talking about how people are learning how to play guitar. I was reading about how Post Malone, he says that he learned how to play guitar from Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
I don't know, but whatever. I don't play it, but I'm like, okay, whatever got you there.
That's crazy though, you know? I mean, and there's also too, I mean, you could also put like 1 million people in front of Guitar Hero and they will not get as good as Post Malone. So I mean, everybody's got a bit of a curve they got to get to and be like, oh, I really want to do this. But I love being a musician wholeheartedly. And I don't ever glorify the struggle. The struggle is what it is. Man, the sun is beaming into your house so nicely. And on my balcony, I'm getting a golden hour sunlight too.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Actually, shade it down a bit so that it wasn't too bright. But that's the one thing I love about my apartment. It's got big windows and I have a lot of plants.
Nice.
It's lively, you know, that
My,
vibe coming in.
my beautiful, incredible girlfriend that goes by the name of Ali is in charge of keeping all the plants in this house alive. We have a pretty nice, we don't have a great amount of plants, but we have a good amount of plants.
Good. Yeah.
Plant life is good for creativity for anybody.
100%. Yeah.
Now, I'm coming in. So, Adrian Hales, do you feel like you're living in your purpose? And if so, what do you feel that purpose is?
Do I believe? Yes, 100%. I believe I'm living in my purpose.
Yes, I
Yes.
love that answer. It was so quick.
100%. I like that you use the word purpose because a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. They don't know what they're good at and don't know what they want to do. But thankfully, I knew what my purpose was at an early age. And that has definitely been the biggest find for me. Is knowing what I wanted to do and what's resonating with me. And the world will tell you, the world will respond to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, ever since, you know, I've excelled all the way through schooling in terms of like, you know, my academics.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, and so, but it was always passionate about. I was always passionate about it, and I always loved it, and I always went the extra length with each one of my classes, and I learned the most I could from everything that was put in front of me because I knew that's what my purpose was.
Yeah.
So as soon as you establish your purpose, then you know the better your life ultimately will be.
100%.
Yeah, but it's sometimes a matter of just getting your beak wet and trying different things to see.
Exactly. Well, you said you're blessed to know what you're good at and to know what you wanted to do. And you know what I've learned? I feel like a lot of people know what they're good at, but they're afraid to follow it. I know like a lot of people are like, I know I'm good at like party planning. I know that I'm good at sewing. I know that I'm really good at this, but how could I possibly become this? So I'm good at this, but I'm afraid. There's a part, I think I genuinely feel like I've met so many people who tell me they don't know what they want to do, but I know them personally. I'm like, you're good at all of these things. And I know you know you're good. I think it's like that fear of getting your beak wet, that fear of potential failure, that fear in general, that general anxiety of the unknown. I think most people suffer and live within that realm of like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not gonna do what if I suck? And you know what the answer to that question is? You're always good enough, and who cares if you flop?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
The abundance mindset as opposed to like the deficit mindset. I like to go to the gym. I liken the process of developing your purpose as going to the gym. Yeah. Going and working out. You'll have happy days at the gym, but you got to continue on. You got to stay consistent. You know, not every day is going to be amazing. You're going to fail. And the time you learn the most is when you fail. Yeah. Man. When you're succeeding and you're getting everything handed to you, you're not learning anything. You're not growing.
When you're surrounded by people who are giving you affirmations and no one's challenging, you're not learning anything.
You're not going. You're not growing.
My biggest epiphanies in life have been when I have fucked up or when I have completely like just fucked something up in whatever realm. It's like, oh shit. Okay, so that's what happens if I do that. If I alter this behavior and if I switch up this, I think I'll have a different outcome. But I wouldn't know what that different outcome could be if I didn't get that failure. So you got to be ready to fail, because that's honestly the amount. When you accumulate a lot of L's, as in losses, they become W's. Yeah.
Very positive. I like that.
I had to do it.
Good on you, dude. Good on you. Amazing.
Yeah, man. Beautiful. Hey, I think we nailed it too. We're what, 6:23? Look at us go.
I have one more question for you. I mean,
okay, I'm ready for it. Let me stretch first. Hold on.
All right, stretch. All right, here.
Let's go.
You know what? May I get a second? Not a second, maybe a couple more seconds. I gotta use the washroom real quick. All this water is just running through me.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't mind if Emily, the admin, would pull up and maybe open the floor for some questions.
Yes. I think we can take a 5-minute break
Oh,
and
totally.
wait for Adrian to come back. I'm sure there are questions already in the chat.
Oh, I haven't even looked at the chat yet. Let me
Well,
open
it's
this
okay.
bad
I can read the chat to you guys, but when Adrian comes back, we'll let him ask his final question, and then I'll give you guys some time to make some final statements.
Ooh, I like this question from Albert Chakula. I would like to answer that not now, but whenever I can.
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Great. Okay, so how about at 6:30, we'll resume.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome.
Just question, am I gonna be in front of everyone here for 6 minutes?
You can turn your video off if you'd like, or you
No,
can.
I got nothing to hide. They can watch me respond to emails, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
All right, back like that.
Hey, oh, we're good. She was saying we can do an intermission, but if you're okay, Emily, I don't want to do one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's totally cool. If you guys would like to keep going, I think Adrian, if you want to ask your last question, then maybe we can open it up to the audience to ask some questions.
What's next on your docket? What are you working on? When is there new music coming out?
Yeah, lots actually, yes. I'm dropping as I brought up, Lil Wayne was one of my favorite artists for several reasons, but one of the reasons is that he had this dedication series, dedication 1, dedication 2, dedication 3, where he'd remix a bunch of industry beats and just slaughter them and put them out for the fans. So I created my own type of mixtape series called You're Welcome. And I'm on my 5th one now, and I'm dropping that on Halloween. It's about 20 songs I remixed, like just absolutely spazzing.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. As for the actual albums and mixtapes, I'm working on 4 separate mixtapes right now. The first one is called Album Mode. I'm currently working on that with my brother BVB. He's in producing, mixing, and mastering the entire project. I'm looking to be dropping that at the top of next year. I'm also working on an album called The Imaginarium of DillanPonders, which is going to be really special. It's probably one of the most psychedelic, facing myself on a lot of different levels that I had never had before. Working on a mixtape called Don't Look Down. And me and my brother Jimmy B are working on something really special called Hunting Season. So I have, being in a position that I'm in now, I have accumulated some beautiful listeners and fans who are just here for the ride. So I'm going to start freely releasing a lot more music than I have in the past and start feeding people in a way I never have.
Brilliant.
And just going to keep that energy going for as long as humanly possible.
Amazing. Great answer. All right, that was my fun. Go ahead.
Emily, I would like to answer this question from Albert Chagula.
Yes.
I'll read it out loud for everybody. He said, when we consider hip hop music promoting toxic masculinity about hoes, bitches, and insert abusive language about gender fluidity, what do successful female artists mean to you? Furthermore, room for the LGBTQ community in hip hop or in the top of the hip hop world? Now, that question, when the idea that hip hop music promotes gender inequality or toxic masculinity is a narrative written by, I'm sorry, but white people who are writing these articles about hip hop music. Hip hop music is broad, it is expansive, and there are a lot of people who are open-minded, who are non-binary, who are out here already selling out shows and doing great things. They're just not being covered in mainstream coverage or in mainstream hip hop in any sense of the word. So there is room for everyone in hip hop. One thing people need to do and learn how to do is separate their narrative from the narrative written by people at a desk who know nothing about hip hop culture. Hip hop culture is open, it is open-minded, Everyone is welcome. Anybody who thinks that hip hop is all about hoes and bitches is probably not listening to an expansive variety of the music. So in my humble opinion, there is already room for all these people. They're already winning. We just have to remember that the narratives pushing hip hop right now are unfortunately not written by the people who are making the music. So there's always going to be false interpretations. So that's my answer to that question, Albert Chigula.
If I can jump in on that as well.
Yes, Adrian.
This is my DJ. For those who, I speak more so about my artwork, but I've been DJing for many years, and I'm a tableist, put on the DMCs, and worked with a lot of musicians, put out albums and whatnot. Further to that, everybody assumes that hip hop is some, giant that lives in the woods that comes down to visit the town people, but it's really made up of the people. It's always reflective of what's happening in communities and at a surface and a grassroots level. It's always been the case. Even in the 90s, they're talking about drugs, but it's because it's what's happening with the people. It's always a reflection.
It is a direct mirror of society, and society is very ugly. Society is very unjust. And trust me, if hip hop is a mirror to that, sometimes hip hop will seem unjust. But I do promise you, as you just said, hip hop is everyone. Yeah. It's all of us. It's all of us using this platform to say what we have to say about this world we're living in. And when he said, furthermore, is there room for the LGBTQ community in hip hop? Of course. That's not that question for me. I mean, that's obvious. It's like saying, is there room for white people in hip hop? Is there room for what? There's room for everyone here. We're already all here. We are all one thing together.
Young Ma comes to mind. She's incredible. I love her. As well as like Lil Nas X. There's all kinds of different. It's always going to be reflective. I
love Lil Nas X, by the way. He's killing it, man. He's going in. But sorry, Emily, are they supposed to ask the questions with their voice, or are we supposed to read them back from the comments? I'm not sure yet.
I think I'll read them back.
Okay.
I'm keeping track, but thank you guys for answering that question.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adrian, for chiming in. I appreciate the perspective.
And I think Zoe, one of the audience members, Zoe, responded to both of your comments and said, artists that use toxic language are promoted, and artists who look for fame use that language for fame. So I guess that's their perspective on it as well.
Yeah, and artists, the people promoting those songs are not necessarily representatives of the hip hop community. They're representatives of people who like making money. And people who like making money know that people like controversial topics. There's a lot of variables when it comes to popular music. I mean, someone could go listen to Tekashi 6ix9ine, or someone could go and listen to Erykah Badu. I mean, it's really up to them. But what's being promoted is typically what's going to cause the most shock value in this game, unfortunately. But I mean, that's not necessarily the route that everybody has to take in the realm of expression.
Mm-hmm. So our next question came from Patrick, and this is more of a general question. What are some great radio shows that you guys are listening to, or some great podcasts, I suppose, as well, that you guys are listening to?
Adrian, feel free to go.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
I'm constantly looking for new music as a DJ and whatnot. So I'm just always listening to, not even a radio station per se, I'm always on iTunes. And I'm constantly getting their suggestions, and I'm listening to whatever comes through the pipes. And for instance, I'll put yours name in, I listen to your album, and then it'll jump to some other stuff that's within that. And then when the stuff hits me, and I'll just have it whilst I'm doing work and stuff, and it'll hit me, and I'm like, my God, this is great. And I create my own playlist just based on that, right? I'm all about right now, that's really got me going insane, is Afrobeats. Afrobeats is so good, right? It resonates with everybody. It's just good vibes music.
It just feels like, it feels right. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's our life, man.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a great answer, Adrian. I honestly, when it comes to podcasts, I don't listen to too many. But when it comes to my search for new music, I mean, similarly to Adrian, I'll put on one of my favorite artists, whether it be Kid Cudi, whether it be Black Uhuru, whether it be AC/DC, and then I'll see, and then what the algorithm throws my way, and I'll sift through. I grew up in the times of LimeWire and FrostWire and searching for music, or mixtapes that were only available on one facet and not available somewhere. So like we're music searchers. I search for things for hours. I search for new sounds, new inspirations, new songs to listen to every day, but no specific radio shows for me.
I'm a couple days older than you, I assume.
I know. I said I come from a time.
I know you're specific, but of my time, if I may, it was more about TKLN, like the Power Move show on Saturdays, and just like while I'm at home with my parents cleaning the house as our Saturday routine from like 1 to 4, I'm always like recording on the cassettes just to get new music. But so, I mean, back in my day, as it were, it was the radio was the thing because that's all we had.
Yeah.
But now there's just so many different means to get your workouts and your music outs.
Yeah, and so many ways, so many new facets to indulge the music. It's beautiful.
Yes. I have a follow-up question to that I'd like to pose to both of you. Who are some artists that should be on our radar, whether that means musicians or visual artists or DJs? I'm sure the audience would love to know as well.
Oh, let me just pull this up.
From my bracket, from some of the people who I know personally and love, guys like Sean Leon should be on your radar. Very beautiful human being. Jordan Sook, an incredible artist who I've worked with on my last album and know him personally. He's an incredible human being. Musician-wise, Terrell Morris, a very incredible musician. Boyfriend, his name is Boyfrn, an incredible musician. Like those 5 names I just listed are some people who I believe in wholeheartedly as much, if not more than I believe in myself.
Word. I'm crazy about Griselda. You must have heard of Griselda, the label, West Side Gun, Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine.
Conway, how did I leave him out?
How do you?
Conway.
Yeah, right.
That's
okay.
my
I got you.
guy right there.
Bodie James, like that's like classic hip hop, like like Wu-Tang style hip hop, really hard, grimy. But done in a new age style. Alchemist's Productions is crazy, always has been. But I guess that's more music from my time that's kind of been updated, if you will.
Conway the Machine is the guy. Just throwing that out there. I love that.
Yeah, 100%. West Side, even their clothing and their fashion, their whole movement is crazy. I had the privilege to actually work on their label. If I'm going to pull out this album really quickly.
Boom.
One of the joys of being an artist and loving music is that you get every now and again to get to do artwork like this for record labels.
Oh, beautiful.
So this dude here, Bozak Morris, is a good friend of mine. He does all the production on this record. But it's Al Camino. He works a lot with the Griselda team. He's on all their stuff and all that with Conway and all the rest of them. So
nice. I love that artwork, by the way. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. So our next question comes from Hillary, and they ask, you both talked about the importance of knowing who you are when you pursue a creative career. Where do you think that knowing comes from?
Experience.
Sorry.
You know what? I want you to go. Okay, you go.
You got to be brutally honest with yourself, because the world would be brutally honest with you.
Yeah.
If you're not, that 10% that you think you're hiding in the closet that nobody knows about, you get to a certain level, it'll come to the forefront. So it's all about facing your demons and being honest with yourself. If you're ahead of your narrative and knowing what your weaknesses are, then your weaknesses aren't going to be a downfall.
They're going to be strengths.
Yeah, think of Eminem, for instance, right? Look at his career. He went up there, in an age where everybody was talking about how awesome they were. And he was like, here are my issues. And it's so disarming because nobody can then use them against you.
Exactly. And to trail with that, with pertaining to experience, I mean, I always had a sense of who I was, pretty free-spirited individual. And I got told who I was supposed to be by a lot of people, whether it be my teachers, people who didn't know me, a bunch of people. And being honest with myself about myself was truly my secret weapon, even to a fault. I mean, like even when I So like I have to do better at what X, Y, and Z, or watching how I talk to myself. Like some people need to realize like knowing your purpose, it's a concept. I mean, like I think I'm living my purpose. I mean, I hope I am. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I am. And I feel that way because I know who I don't want to be, so I am not those people. And I'm honest with myself, as Adrian Hales just said. I keep it a buck. I don't, everybody, nobody's going to be honest with you. Or they're either going to be not honest or they're going to be brutally honest with you, and it's going to hurt. So it's good to know not what your shortcomings are, but what you can grow from. That's my best way of answering that. It's keeping it a buck with yourself always.
Yeah, so one more fan question from Albert, and it goes as follows. Thank you both for answering the question so well, and dare I say eloquently. Much appreciated. Oh, thank you. If you could bring back one artist or creative person from the dead, whom would you choose to bring back and why? What did they mean to you, your work, and moreover, what did they mean to the world of creative artists? Dylan, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, Bob Marley.
Oh.
Yeah, 100%. A lot would say Bob Marley's impact, he got the job done, but I firmly would love to just see him flourish in the days of today. I can't even describe the feeling I used to get as a pickney when my pops would play him through the house up till now. The level of inspiration I received from his very wise words, I feel like the world, as much as his music is timeless and will last forever, I feel like he as a timeless individual and a spiritualist would resonate just as well now as he did back in those days. So Bob Marley all day.
I'm not a huge Tupac fan, but I would say Tupac. And why I would say that is because there's a lot of people, you know, after his demise and his passing that try to fill his shoes or be like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, never really did well. They never, hey, I'm sorry. No one.
No, it just doesn't happen. But yeah, the long and the short is that who I would think would be interesting to have back. He was just taken too soon, and his impact, you know, like you could see how people are trying to be like him, or I think he had a lot more to offer before his demise.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Adrian, I'm curious, is there a visual artist that you would have liked to bring back?
Visual artist, jeez. Well, you know, this is too obscure to probably be a bit more obscure for most, but I think maybe Marcel Duchamp. He's a data artist I studied and looked up to, mainly because of his ideas of pushing the boundaries of what is arts. He's kind of the crazy guy that would, like, one of his famous pieces was like putting a toilet into an art gallery and being like, this is arts. Much like we were talking about it when we opened up in this conversation, that you know, objectivity and perception of it.
Those dialogues we can have personally after this conversation are dialogues I love to have with people, because some people are like, well, that's not art. And I'm like, says who?
Says who? In this space, it is arts. In this space, it is, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So
right?
that's a good answer. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. I love Marcel Duchamp. So
great.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask? Feel free to put it in the chat right now. But in the meantime, while we're waiting to see if more questions come in, I do have some questions for you guys also, because I was enjoying your conversation so much. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this event, it's called The Language of Hip Hop. But I'm curious, to each of you, what is hip hop?
The coolest, most broad and expansive form of expression. That's gonna be my immediate answer. I'll let my beautiful brother Adrian take it from there.
Sure. You know, hip hop is that idea of taking whatever you have in your hands and making the most of it. if you think of where it came from, like, Brooklyn or, in New York, where there was nothing, the people who created hip hop had nothing. You know what I mean? You used, you also got to think of the time where it all developed and built. It was, came about. Instruments were taken away from schools. There was like the industrialization changed in New York, where everything was stripped out of it. There was no factories for people to go to work in. There was no, music and classes and schools were no longer there. There's nothing. There was no real form of expression that was accessible for people, youth, specifically in these urban environments. So what do? They grabbed the old records that they had, and then they started looping things and making their own beats, and then rhyming and talking about what was happening in their look. They got pieces of cardboard, and put it down on the ground, and then started figuring out how to dance. Like, think of breakdancing.
Yo.
Right? Breakdancing then led to like the moonwalk, which then, Bob Marley, Michael Jackson then took and then made it what it was. All those things start from these urban little spaces. When we speak of languages, think about the language, bad and, chilling, and all these are languages that are specific.
Yeah, to hip hop as a whole, like the lingua, everything, like the lingua that we use today, like I'm coolin', I'm chilling, like that's hip hop. That didn't come from anywhere else. And it is truly the most beautiful like story of making what you have not just work, but change the fucking world. Like, if it didn't just make what you have work, it changed the world.
globally. I mean, you touch on reggae. I mean, I was in Thailand a couple years ago, and I was shocked. You hear stories of it, but I went to where was I? I was in Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is up in the northern part of it. It's a small, like, sleepy town, but it's such a hipster town. I was blown away as to how many reggae bars there were. No black people.
Okay, I was about to say.
No black people.
Yeah, but still, there were reggae bars.
Red, yellow, and green everywhere. It was like you were in Jamaica, but there. It's crazy just how much of the influence was on the other side of the world.
Yeah, right? It's mind-blowing. Like, how did it not just get there, but resonate to a point where it becomes a staple in their community? It's incredible.
Yeah, and they're singing the songs. They're doing covers of all, great classic reggae songs because of that vibe and that energy that resonates. And these come from really poor places where people have very little to nothing to work with. So I think great things always come from those type of places where there's absolutely nothing, and all you have to work with is just scraps.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's hip hop, baby.
That's hip hop. That's creative.
That's a creative journey, man.
Wonderful. Okay. One question just came in.
Sure.
Thank you again for the answers. I would have liked to hear more about what the Dead Creative meant to your work, although I did appreciate the perspectives you guys presented. If I may ask, as a Black youth myself, I look to hip hop music as only one of the two options for progress or making a living other than being sports. Do you think hip hop artists have a responsibility to show Black youth in their music so that they're capable of more than these two options? If yes, which artists or creative do you see already using their platform to inspire Black youth to live to their full potential? So this is a two-part question. Do you think that hip hop artists have the responsibility to show to Black youths that there's more than these two options of being a hip hop artist or in sports? And then the second part is which artist do you think is exemplifying that?
I think hip hop artists are only responsible for coming from a genuine place of expression. I think the responsibility would be on our society to show Black youth that they can be more than one of those two things. Yes, I do also at the same time feel as an artist that I have a responsibility to make people feel comfortable, safe, warm, and empowered when they hear my music. But to answer the first part of that, I feel like societally speaking, the responsibility obviously lies on us. as artists and creatives to drive a narrative forward. But that question feels a little multifaceted because we also live in a society that tells Black youth specifically that athletics and hip hop are all that you can do. So yeah, I do feel like there is a responsibility. Yeah. Long story short, yeah, I think so.
Well, the people that are often highlighted are the musicians and the athletes in society, right? Like they make the album, they make the magazine covers and they're publicized, you know, across the planet, if you will. But so you don't see, very rarely do you see even visual artists who are Black or whatever getting that kind of attention. So there is a bit of a responsibility on society to actually showcase that there's more to it. And I think that, you know, artists like myself who representation is so critical. I'm working on a series of children's books right now with Crabtree Publishing, with that in mind, that idea of having representation so that kids can see that they can be more than what society is presenting them as options. So yeah, you know, we got to do what we can as individuals to show that there's more to it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if, you know, you're an individual as a kid or whatever have you, looking for finding your purpose and finding people that look like you that have done it, there's a very good chance that they're as eager to see you succeed as you are, you know what I mean? Like for me, I'm happy when a Black kid comes up to me and says, hey, I want to be an artist. How do I do it? How to do whatever have you? And being able to partake, you know, pass on that knowledge to them. So there's definitely a responsibility for us to share that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And the second half of like, which artists or creatives do you see already using their platform to inspire Black youth to live to their full potential? Now, there are artists who may not be commercially acceptable, but guys like Vic Mensa are incredible. They're putting on, they're spreading knowledge. But when it comes to inspiration, I mean, it doesn't always have to come in the form of preaching directly. Sometimes just a piece of work can inspire someone to be bigger or better or more expansive than they ever thought that they could be. Like, for example, when I hear certain records, certain songs by certain artists, I genuinely get, like, I embody that. When I see a painting that I love, I personally, this is speaking subjectively, I feel inspired on a level. But realistically, when it comes to artists and creatives who I think are already using their platforms to give Black youth, I mean, you got to talk about Jay-Z if you're going to talk about that. You got to talk about Nipsey Hussle. You know, you got to rest in peace.
Yeah.
Paradise. But what I love about Jay-Z is that he kind of stretched the narrative to where we lived in a culture in hip hop where it's like, yo, you're 40, yo, get out of here. Where it's like, Jay-Z's like, no, like the longer I go, the longer you can go. The longer we can do this together, the more knowledge that I could spread and share. Because I remember when Jay-Z came up with Tidal and everyone was like, yo, what the hell is this? Why is it only available on Tidal? It's like, Spotify and Apple Music have been doing the exact same things forever, but when a Black man does it, it's like, why are you doing this? Yeah. It's like even in the NBA, when Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh went to Miami Heat, everyone lost their shit because just Black dudes doing what they want to do. I think culturally speaking, that's always been a narrative. It's like, how dare you go and do your own thing? But to answer his question, Jay-Z is going to be at the top of that list forever for me, man. From what he's done to prison reform, from what he's done with getting prisoners out of jail, from what he's done to spread his wings and be able to help people on almost every level, Jay-Z is at the top of that list for sure, in my opinion.
I loved also, if I can add to that, how he evolved, matured. We're talking about hip hop language, where he came from and spoke about where he was at then. Right now, he's a lot of his lyrics are talking about how to get to where he's at, how to break those the social norms or the expectations that society has on you.
Exactly.
And how to, to invest in things instead of doing dumb things like wasting your money on strip clubs or.
Yeah, what about lawyer fees? Like what about just he literally gave, I mean, no pun intended, the blueprint to like how to get there. Yeah. I had to do it. But social pressure and cultural narratives were never something that he was going to like fall into. It was for me, I mean, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I just got excited. But yeah. Yeah, but I to answer the second part of that question, I guess, I really love Jay-Z for that. I look up to him on a lot of levels, and that's one of the main reasons, because inspiring Black youth to live to their full potential. I mean, inspiring people to live to their full potential is all I want to do. But in the society that we live in, Black youth are not necessarily given the amount of opportunities they should be. So when you have someone like Jay-Z at the top of the totem, or even someone like me, wherever I am on the totem, it's beautiful to see an artist let you know that you can be anything you want to be on any scale. And that's the end of my...
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to end the questions. But as we wrap up the event, I would like to throw it back to you guys. Dillan, Adrian, do you have any last remarks that you would like to say before we part?
Adrian, would you like to go?
Oh man, it's been a mouthful. I've really appreciated this discussion. Thank you so much, Dillan, for being so insightful and so eloquent in this discussion. And you know, for Hart House and everybody that's involved at U of T for putting this on. This has been a great experience for me, and yeah, I'd love to do another one or do more, and keep me in the loop when there's other ones, because I'd love to hear what other artists in these type of conversations have to say about their experiences and what they can bring to the forefront.
Thank you for having us in this space. Thank you, Adrian, for your insightful perspective building answers. And when it comes to being an artist or a creator, I always just like to tell people or remind people, as I kind of said about Dr. Seuss earlier, like you are literally the only you there is just, you are that. So when when people are confused about their purpose, you're already being you. You're already living in that purpose. You just kind of got to find your aim and take one step a day at getting to it. I was just talking to my girl about this yesterday. There's a quote from Will Smith that I love. He's like, if you look at a house and someone's like, hey, look at that house, go and build one, it would be very overwhelming. Like, how do I even build a house? But if you look at it like, I'm going to lay one brick a day, every single day, I'm going to lay one piece of plaster, you're going to build a house, metaphorically speaking, at some point or another. So I say that to say this: every step forward is a step in the right direction, and just keep moving forward. You know, the purpose will follow at some point or another. And yeah, and beyond that, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. To whoever's still here and whoever tuned in, I appreciate you guys listening to me and Adrian rift. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I've spotlighted myself now because I really just want to say that on behalf of the Hart House Student Literary and Library Committee, we are so thankful that both of you could share your insights with us. This was just an incredibly fruitful discussion, which I'm sure many of us are going to leave this Zoom call thinking about for some time. I also wanted to take some time to thank the audience for joining us, for asking such amazing questions. I really enjoyed everybody's participation. Before we part, I did want to alert to everyone that the Language of Hip Hop is the first of 2 artist talks that we'll be holding this year. So if you're interested in attending another artist talk, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at HHSL&LC to keep up to date with our event offerings. We are also working at the Hart House Library to curate a collection of books on hip hop and books which you might call hip hop literature. So if this is a topic that interests you, you can find further reading at the Hart House Library. And we would love to hear if you have recommendations for books about hip hop that the Hart House Library should purchase. So if you do, please feel free to email us at hhsl&lib@gmail.com. You can also find all of this information on our website. Mm-hmm. Yes, again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope that you all have a great evening, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone who was here. Should we let everyone go off mute and say thanks?
Yes, absolutely.
Whoever's still here, where are you? Say peace. I need it.
Shout out.
Thank you so much. You guys.